Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa ala man istanna bi sunnatihi wa ihtada bi hadihi wa sara ala nahjihi ila yawm al-din. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is my pleasure to get to know all of you and to discuss. This is a workshop, it's not a lecture. So if you think you're just going to come and sit and listen and sleep, then inshallah the masjid carpet is soft downstairs. So you can take a moment and you can take, if anybody needs to take a nap. But this is a workshop, so it's going to be very interactive. The topic of our workshop is parenting in a secular society. Can anybody tell me what does secular mean? What does this mean? It's in the title.
Considering no religion.
No religion.
Okay, no religion.
Atheist.
Sorry?
Atheist.
Atheists. Close, but it's not quite there. Anybody else?
Christian.
Sorry?
society.
Christian society, uncle's saying. Yes?
Separate affairs from religion.
Good. Secular, the idea of secularism, it's not Christianity, it's not atheism. You came close to it. The idea of secularism is separating
Affairs from religion.
religion with public affairs. I'll give you an example. The famous way to define secular was separation of church and state. That means if you're religious, you want to practice your religion, you go inside the church, you pray to God, you leave. Outside the church, no religion. This is the meaning of secular. That doesn't mean atheist. That doesn't mean Christian. It means all people can practice their religions in a 10 by 10 meter environment. Outside of that space, there is no religiosity. The government, the kingship, the people who are in charge are not going to put any religion forward for the general public. Any religious symbols, any religious ideas, practices for everybody to follow. Right? It's neutral, non-religious. But you want to practice your religion, there's a box, now you can practice in there. Marhaban. This is what secular means, secular society. This presents some challenges for parents. Now we have some uncles here who are parents of children at the age of 30. We have some parents here who have children at the age of 4. We have parents who are inexperienced, who are experienced. Okay? Let me tell you, it's sometimes useful to start with a bogeyman, a scary horror story, for you to understand why this is an important thing for us to discuss in the first place. Okay? One of the roles I currently play is I'm a Muslim chaplain at a university in the UK. The role of a chaplain is like an imam, but you also have to look after the students, the Muslim students. I get a call one day from a father who's from Iraq. And he says to me, look, my daughter is a student at the university, but I have lost track of her. She hasn't visited home in 3 months. She's not picking up my calls. I don't know what she's doing. I said, look, you need to come and try and see her maybe. Contact her, communicate with her. As a chaplain, I can't go and I can't speak to her. You need to try and, it's your daughter, you have to try and speak to her. I'm legally not allowed to intervene. I can't meddle in your relationship. He said, okay. He came to the university. He found his daughter. And he entered her room and he found alcohol in her room. And she said to him, the reason I've not been visiting home is I'm not a Muslim anymore. I drink, I have a boyfriend, I do zina, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. This traditional Iraqi father who's a refugee from Baghdad, who's an educated man, is a doctor. In this moment of anger, how did he react? He gave her a slap. What did she do? She called the police, restraining order against him. He can never see his daughter again. He still calls me 4 years later. I just want to see my daughter. Where's my daughter? I don't care now about drinking. I just want her to come home. Just come home. You can do whatever you want. Just come home, please. Before it was different. He was saying, you have to come home, you have to listen to me, you have to obey me. Now the restraining order is in place. He said, look, I don't want anything, I just wanted to come home. But it's too late now. He cannot contact her ever again. This is the horror story. This can be your children. This can be my children. This is one story. If you sit with me with a cup of tea, I have 30, 40, 50 more stories to tell you. Of university students, escaping their parents, Muslims, what they get up to. Right? I have taught children who are 6, who are 8, who are 10, who are 12, all the way up to university level. And I've taught those who are older than them. What tends to happen? I get a call. Look, my son is 16, he's 18, he's doing drugs, or he's smoking, or he's doing zina, or my daughter is this. Can you please talk to them and fix them? This is why you're all here today. My response is, in a 30-minute conversation, I cannot fix 18 years of parenting. If you messed up for 18 years as a parent, I can't fix it in 30 minutes. The imam, the sheikh, the scholar, the da'iyah, the local, whoever it is, they cannot do parents' jobs for them. This is why we are here today. When you live in a secular society, what is absent? Just think, if you're in a Muslim country, you're in Somalia, you're in Syria, you're in Iraq, you're in Pakistan. What's happening inside the home is one thing. But what's happening outside the home? Tell me, what are the differences? You guys tell me. What are the differences between here, when your child leaves the home to school outside the house, and in a, yes?
The house has more freedom.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say freedom. What else?
The whole culture is different. When they say they see Muslim around in those countries, here they see non-Muslims around.
Okay.
The norm is changed. Like over there, people will see people, women in burqa, men with the with the beard and all. But here, you go out, you won't see that.
Okay. So you'll see people of different faiths, etc.
Yeah.
You might be seeing people doing wrong things. In your moral compass, this is wrong. It's haram. It's immoral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outside the house. Okay. Yes, young man.
What do you call it? You have to do something. You have to do certain stuff in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Like you wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and outside then you just get to do whatever you want.
You get freedom. Yes.
We have no space to do forbidden things in the Muslim countries.
In the,
Muslim countries.
you have more space to do.
And the bad deeds, like
Go on.
smoking, alcohol, and stuff like that.
You can't do those things? Or you have more space to do them in non-Muslim countries? Like here? Okay. So freedom. Anything else?
Multi-faith and multicultural
Yes.
society,
Yes.
and the environment is making them.
So there's influences.
Yes.
Okay, there's influence of other faiths. What else?
The influence of friends as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else?
Less of an Islamic influence.
For example?
So there's less masjids around. You don't hear the adhan.
Okay, this is very important. What does Allah call these things in the Quran? Anybody know? Adhan, the masjids, Eid, the big gatherings.
Like a stronger foundation, Islamic foundation, stronger Islamic foundation.
But this adhan, masjid, these things has a specific name in the Quran. Yes?
Remembrance, dhikr.
Not dhikr,
Iman.
not iman. Yes?
Allah's house, the mosque is Allah's house.
The mosque is Allah's house, correct? All of these things, though, they have a name in the Quran. They have a title. These public symbols of faith. Yes?
بيت الله.
بيت الله أحد من هذه. إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله. Okay. We're going to understand what is this. Yeah? I'm going to write here lack of sha'air. What is a sha'ira? A sha'ira of Allah is a symbol of Allah on this earth. It represents Him. It reminds, the moment you see it, you remember Him. For example, the Kaaba. The Kaaba, the first time you see the Kaaba, something happens to you. You don't know what happens to you. You feel something deep inside your heart, a remembrance of Allah. Just by looking at it. Yeah. Hearing the adhan. It's very touching. It moves you. You're doing something, you're busy, you're in a mall, something, you hear the adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You freeze. These public displays, if you're teaching your child something at home, they all confirm what you're teaching at home. You tell your child, Salah is important. The moment the adhan goes off, everybody starts walking to the masjid. Your child can see now in society, Salah is really important. Right? Or for example, you tell your child you shouldn't dress a certain way. Now, if the media is filtered, movies are filtered, so there's parental guidance so that your children don't see those things on TV. Or if you go outside, that there are some guidelines for clothing. All of this in the public, this regulation, helps. There's now a consistency between what you're teaching at home and what the child. But this sha'airullah is very important. Allah says, whoever has in their heart, magnifies these sha'air, they feel amazed by them, that means they have taqwa, they fear Allah, they love Allah in their heart. It's a sign of their taqwa. And if it doesn't mean anything to you, there's a lack of taqwa. So these sha'air, they build a person's iman. So these are the differences. You can see these are some of the differences. Okay? Now, we are now in a society where all of this is happening. And you're here, you can't go anywhere else. What do you do? What do you do inside the house? What do you do outside the house to reduce the impact of these things? And think about the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, which is a place full of people worshipping idols, full of bad influences. What did he do there? And think about the third thing we're going to look at is how to deal with your children's questions about faith. Because your children here are going to ask you, oh Baba, if Allah created everything, then who created Allah? They might ask you, why? Why do they worship? Why do they go Christmas and we are bored sitting at home? Everybody's having fun except us. How to deal with these questions? This is the end of the workshop. Now I'm going to split into two groups. If you're on this side of the room, you have to look at the external stuff. You're a Muslim in the UK. All of this stuff is happening outside, the external outside influences. How can you minimize them? How can you maximize them? What? How can you minimize them? Yeah. How can you reduce the effect, reduce the influence? And you guys, this side, you're going to think about the internal, inside the house. How do you create a household, a home, a family, a life for your children where they feel confident in their identity, they know why they believe, what they believe, and they're ready to face the outside world? How do you do that inside the house? Okay. Talk to the person next to you or the 2-3 people next to you and discuss. If you don't have someone next to you, then sit next to somebody else. You guys, you all have, I'll give you 7 minutes. Inshallah. Your time starts now. Bismillah. Okay. MashaAllah. We had almost 7 minutes. We'll start with this side. So we said there's so many things in this society that we live in. There are many influences on our children, right? And how can we minimize those influences? How can we deal with those influences outside the house? Then we're going to talk about inside the house. But you know, there's the link between them. I'll give you the analogy that imagine you have a house in a storm. Heavy windstorm, rain, thunder, lightning. The people of the house don't feel worried about the weather outside because they know the house is going to keep them safe. This is the example of the home. Allah gives a few analogies in the Quran. One of the analogies Allah gives in the Quran is about the house of a spider. مثل الذين اتخذوا من دون الله كمثل العنكبوت اتخذت بيتا وإن أوهن البيوت لبيت العنكبوت لو كانوا يعلمون. Allah says the weakest of houses, the most fragile of houses is the spider web. Fragile. Anything can blow it apart. You know, it looks so beautiful when you see it. how much time the spider takes to weave it, and how much effort it puts into it. But because of the material that it's made of, it doesn't matter. It blows away. If the house, what's inside the house is strong, on strong foundations, that will help in dealing with all of the wind and the storm outside the house. If the house inside is fragile, the parents are arguing and fighting all the time in front of the children are unhappy, the parents are screaming, shouting, cussing, angry at the kids are angry at each other, hitting, breaking, the neighbors are shouting, they open the door, there's crime going on in the streets. If inside the house, father might not be praying salah, mother might not be delaying their salah, no Quran on a day-to-day basis, then that house is a spider's house. You don't even need these things to break the child. You just need a light breeze. It's finished. You understand? Allah talks about this in the Quran. Okay, so let's start with how do we minimize the factors happening, the influences on our children outside the house? You want to put your hand up and you can share. Yes, brother, at the back.
Explain to them the consequences of the bad things happening outside.
Okay. Explain to them the consequences of the stuff happening outside the house. Okay. One second, this is what happens when you are, mashallah, put some sanitizer on it, should do the job. Improvise. When life gives you lemon, you put it in the bin, you drink orange juice. Okay, yes, you said, explain to them the consequences. Give me an example. Your child wants to go to a concert with a few friends. Your son. He's 9, he's 11, 12, 13. Friends are going to a nativity play, a Christmas sing and dance dinner. Why does he have to be left out? Go on, explain to me. I'm your son. Explain to me the consequences. Daddy, I want to go to the party. What are you going to say?
I don't know the exact way to do it.
Uncle, can you help our brother? Uncle is going to now relive some of his older days.
So you can explain that in Islam, you're not allowed to be mixing.
Okay.
That's one thing. Second thing, music is forbidden in Islam,
Okay.
which they will have.
Mhm.
Other thing is in terms of food,
Mhm.
whether it's halal or haram.
Mhm.
You have to provide the sandwiches that you're going to eat.
Mhm.
No problem. The drinks, it could be fizzy and it could be a bit of a mixed up with that.
Okay, so uncle's now explaining to the child the risks. What is he going to find when he goes there? But a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old who grows up in the UK, goes to primary school, learns critical thinking and analysis, is just going to say, okay, Dad. He might say, why? But I just want to have fun. Yes?
This is where I guess maybe might come in, you introduce them into something that's more good for them. So
Okay,
rather than
give them
saying,
alternative.
say, for example, rather than celebrating Christmas, celebrate Eid, or rather than taking them to go play with their friends, introduce them into Muslim friends with playdates, take
Okay.
them to the masjids, introduce them to things that might be better for them.
Okay, so on the day of the party, we're all going to have a sleepover at home with all the kids from the masjid. Yeah?
Yeah.
We're all going to watch a documentary about bees in nature. We're all going to learn about bees. We're going to do crafts. We're going to have honey. We're going to have a honey cake as well. And we're all going to have fun. Which one's more fun, this or that? Come on, it's okay, you can stay. It's the alternatives. But also, if we tell a child, this is haram, this is haram, this is haram. Whenever Allah tells us something is haram in the Quran, almost all of the time He tells us why.
Yeah, explain.
Always. For example, when Allah tells us alcohol is haram, who can give me the ayah?
ويسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما.
Okay, they ask you about gambling and alcohol, intoxication. Tell them, O Muhammad, they have both positives and negatives. Allah says they have positives and negatives. But the negatives are more than the positives. So rather than just telling your child, this is haram, alcohol is bad, take them on a Saturday night, drive past the city center. Look what those people are doing. Look at them screaming and running around. These are normal thinking human beings. Look what alcohol can do to you. You know? Don't just tell them, don't eat this food. Show them a video. People who don't slaughter in a halal way, what do they do to animals? They torture, they beat, they XYZ. Allah wants us to treat animals well. This is why halal meat is important. The moment they see these videos, the moment they see this, it starts to make sense to them. Tell them why. Especially when they are like 7, 8, 9 and up to teenage years. Younger than that, usually children imitate, right? They obey, they imitate. But it's useful after that, tell them why. And you know, for that you need to know why. Sometimes we don't know why something's haram. This is a learning opportunity for you and me. We learn through this. Okay? Okay, what else? How can we minimize the influences outside the house? What about movies, TV, media, cartoons? Almost every child watches cartoons. And every cartoon has some subliminal messages. The stuff we watch as parents in front of our children. The news, the cricket, the football, the whatever we're into. The children are around when they watch, when this stuff is being played. How can we minimize the influence of the media on the children?
Parental controls.
Sorry?
Parental controls.
Parental controls. Okay. That's if you're going to give them a phone, yes?
TVs as well and laptops.
Okay, yeah, parental control. There are ways you can control what children are doing on a laptop, on a phone, on a TV. Okay, what else? This is more damage control. There's something better we can do for them.
Time on the device.
Okay, very good. That's part of parental control. What else?
Alternatives again.
This is the first thing that should be done, not the last thing. It shouldn't just be, control the bad stuff that's out there. What is the best cartoon I can find for my child that will give them a good tarbiyah? Because a cartoon is another form of education for the child. You select the cartoon. And you spending time finding the right cartoon for your children is a ibadah. It's a worship of Allah. Allah will reward you for it. And if that child gets hooked to the cartoon and keeps watching it and they learn something good from it, that reward goes to you. So you select the right cartoon, select the right media. Of course, all of this starts to apply less and less as they grow older and they say, you can't select things from me, I have my phone, I do my own thing. This is why until the age of 10, 11, 12, you can have more authority, more weight, you have more control, set more principles that will then govern the later parts of their life. Once they're 15, 16, 17, in this country, you have to be very careful. Yeah, you have to be very careful. Right? Your authority is limited. If your child wants to legally run away from home because you don't accept what they're doing, they can run away from home. I get calls about that. My child has, let's say, made a decision about their gender and parent doesn't agree with the decision about the child's gender. What do? Child says, if you disagree, I'm going to run away. Social services will look after me. You end the loss. So those years. What is in our parent cultures before we came to the UK, most people, they let the kids grow up. Parenting is not something conscious and deliberate. The kids will just bring themselves up in school, play, friends, family. You can't do that here. You can't. You have to be aware and alert. You don't know where the shaitan is sitting and waiting to ambush your children. Okay, what else external? What else can we minimize all the external? We said consequences, alternatives, telling them why, controls, selecting the right opportunities for them. Yes?
I think
So,
the most important, keep them connected to the masjid.
nobody said this. What is the masjid for the child? Because the child, they don't know, like a 6-year-old will not know this worship of Allah and something like this. Why would the child come to the masjid? For what?
Symbol.
Playground.
A playground, a community. You have to give your children a community. And a community of like-minded people. Call it a masjid, call it a playgroup, call it family friends. You choose certain families that you socialize with, you invite them for dinner, they invite you for dinner, you visit them, your children talk, but you know the parents have the right mindset, similar to you, their children are not going to be introducing the wrong things to your kids. Safe environment. Give them they need a community, they need free play, they need time to expand their energy, football club, basketball, cricket, playtime, right? So masjid is not just for learning, they should have other Muslim kids or people with the right moral ideas to just play with. This is what they need. Because what you're going to teach them inside the house, it has to be reinforced by other kids, other parents, other families, etc. They need a community. What else? We'll take one last, then we'll move to this side.
Spend time with the child. I see a lot of parents that are always busy working out, I guess working.
What do most men see their number one responsibility as? Provide. Get the bread on the table. I'm the breadwinner. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the core responsibility of a parent. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. O believers, protect yourselves and your families from the hellfire. This is your main role. They can be hungry. If they go to Jannah, they'll forget their hunger. But if they're spoiled, nice house, swimming pool, table tennis, Xbox 360, PlayStation 17, best iPhone, private school, everything, and they go to Jahannam, what was the point? You provided everything, and it helped them to go the wrong way. Our role is not just to provide. Our role, we need to spend more time with them. Especially in the society that we live in. We cannot just let go of them, and then when they're 18 and they're in the wrong hands, call the Sheikh. Sheikh, come on. My child is doing zina, smoking, please. My child's left Islam, come and help me. 18 years, where were you? Yes? Okay, let's... Sheikh Hassan, we have 10 minutes? Yes? Gentleman on the left. What do we do inside the house to create the right environment for them? What's the first thing, the most important thing inside the house?
Teaching the value of Islam.
Okay. Before teaching them the value, I will write it down. Before teaching them the value of Islam.
Giving them a right environment, like in terms of just to from the very child age to know that what is halal and what is haram, and to, as I said, give them alternative.
Okay. Before all of this, there's something before all of this. Yes.
Creating a loving atmosphere.
Okay, loving atmosphere is good. But before this, even before this.
Identity.
No, before this. Before anything you give them. Yes.
Reviving Islam inside the house.
Before all of this, you have to follow Islam. Before you give them an environment, give them a love, give them anything, you have to give yourself. Can an empty jug pour? You have to fill the jug. You have to fill the jug. In the Quran, there is a story in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved children only because their parents were righteous, nothing else. The parents were not there. They were not even there physically. But because their parents were righteous, Allah protected their children. Who can tell me the story?
Yeah, the story in
Surah Al-Kahf.
وَكَانَ
وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. The two orphan boys, their parents had left them inheritance, but it was hidden somewhere. And Allah sends Musa and Khidr. Imagine a prophet came, alayhi salam, and a man like Khidr.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Is Salah immediate? Oh.
2:50. 2:30.
2:30, huh? Interesting, okay. Yes. Allah sent Musa alayhi salam and Khidr to these young boys just to save their inheritance and give them wealth and look after them. Why? Allah says just one thing. Their parents were righteous people, so I looked after their children. Nothing can replace your commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing. What many parents do, they have regrets, they're not up to scratch. So we will overcompensate with our children, send them to 10 madrasas and 5 imams and maulanas coming home and muallims and Quran and this. But you know what? If you are not praying Fajr Salah and your children don't know you are not praying Fajr Salah, nothing you tell them can help them. Nothing. I used to teach in a madrasa. I used to teach the children. There's about 40 children in my classroom. And on the parents-teacher meeting day, the parent comes and says, Sheikh, I'm moving my kid to another school because you teach him very basic things. I said, really? Come. Sit down, my son. Tell your parent, what did I teach you about Fajr? He said, Ustadh said we should wake up for Fajr. I said, okay. Did you pray Fajr ever? He said, no. 9-year-old boy. I said, fine. Why didn't you pray Fajr? Father starts going red. I woke up for Fajr one day. My father said, go back to sleep. You have school. You don't need to pray Fajr. I looked at the Father. I said, take him to any madrasa. As long as you are doing this at home, not praying Fajr, telling him not to pray Fajr, your son will never learn. Yes, this is the first thing. Become righteous. Yes, especially for younger children. Younger children don't listen, they imitate. You know, one time there was a camera like this in a conference. And my father was walking past and he ducked his head every time he walked past. He ducked his head. And then a 2-year-old boy came. He ducked his head and he walked past. He doesn't need to duck his head. Why is he ducking his head?
Because he saw, yeah.
That's it. This is the first thing. If we work hard on ourselves, if we rub everything out, if we work hard on ourselves, we are in the masjid for salah, we are reciting Quran, we are working hard, we are respecting our parents, the children will watch and learn. Nothing can. If you just do this, you've done a great job. You have to become up to scratch. We have to become up to scratch for our children. We are the role models. They don't see the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They see you and me. If we become like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will learn about the Sunnah. If we tell them Muhammad, and 7-Up in one hand, and feet up, and TV on, and stuff happening on the TV, and missing salawat, then they're not going to learn anything. Yeah? In fact, we are going to be a negative influence. This is the first thing. Then what the brother said, loving environment. Good. Teaching them the values. How do you teach them the values, brother? Tell me. How do you teach a child, let's say 10-year-old, about some values? Yes, tell me.
I think first it starts with teaching them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Allahu Akbar. Yes.
Because if I remember correctly, but if I remember in the Quran, there's an ayah that talks about if you teach your kids about Allah, Allah's going to teach them about you.
How do you teach a child about Allah? Who can give me an example? How do you teach a child or a young man, a young woman, teenager even? How do you teach them about Allah? Yes.
Show your children about the prophets and the miracles that Allah made.
Okay. Show them the miracles that Allah gave to the prophets. Yes.
By teaching them Allah's name.
Okay. This is one very important method. The names of Allah.
By telling them what Allah gave us, all the rahmats and all.
Very good. Point out to them the blessings. Yes. Yes, Akhi.
By showing them Allah's creations.
This is perhaps one of, if not the most effective for younger children under the age of 10. To show them the creation of Allah. What does Allah say in the Quran? قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Go out in the earth. فَانظُرُوا كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ. Go and see how I created everything. How I started the creation. أَفَلَمْ يَنظُرُوا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَوْقَهُمْ. Allah says, don't they look at the sky? You know, we are adults. We get bored of looking at the sky. But a child, everything is new to them. Everything is new. They never saw it properly before. So you sit with your child. Look at the sky. There's no cracks. Nothing is holding. Look where it ends. Look at the clouds. Look how the clouds when your child is amazed and you say, who made all of this? Allah. And you have that conversation with them again and again and again and again. Repeatedly. You know what? That will force you to appreciate nature as well. You have to appreciate nature to make them appreciate nature. So you will reconnect with Allah's creation. You know, instead of putting a cartoon on for them, let them watch a documentary about nature, about the bees, about how Allah created the mountains, planet Earth. This David Attenborough documentary. It's a very beautiful documentary. The jungle, the forest, the sea. Let them be amazed by Allah's creation. Take them to the zoos. Take them to the Peak District. Take them to the Lake District. Take them out. Go walk with them. Show them Allah's creation. Go climbing with them. You become a child with them. This is something we learn from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Inside the house, the man must become a child. Sometimes you have to be firm, but you sometimes have to become like a child and play with them. Who can tell me example in the Prophet's life? Yes, Habib.
Sorry.
No, tafadal, you're going to say something different.
Sorry for
cutting you.
لا لا تفضل تعليق لا لا tell me.
كنت أريد أود أن أذكر الآية وأمر أهلك بالصلاة واصطبر عليها.
جميل. Okay, inside the house, one of the biggest focuses should be salah. We'll come to salah in a few moments. Allah said in the Quran, command your family to pray salah. وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Be extremely patient in this. Persistent. Consistent, because it's not easy. It takes a long time to build the habit. But let's talk for a moment about this, playing with your children. The Prophet ﷺ would mirror the child. Whatever the child is interested in, he would show interest in this. Okay, I have zero interest in football. In my life, I almost never watched a football match until Morocco's semi-final. Okay, this was just for the sake of Allah, I watched the football match. Morocco has to win this match. Allah Mansur Islam wal Muslimin. After 2-0, I turned off the TV set. Tell me in the morning who wins the World Cup next week. Khalas. Now my son is interested in Manchester United. And football and this. I have no interest in this. But to be his friend, I'll take the ball, I'll take him to the park, I'll kick the football, I'll pretend like I know about the players, and I will, show him some clips. Because I want to show him I'm interested in what he is interested. So his love for me grows. Because I don't care about Manchester United. But if he loves me, then when I tell him Salah, he will follow me. He has to love me first. If he doesn't love me, if he sees me as a scary parent, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ one day comes into the house of Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik is a young boy, 6, 7, 8 years old. Anas ibn Malik has a brother called Abu Umair. Abu Umair has a toy, it's like a bird. And one day the bird is missing. The Prophet ﷺ asks Abu Umair, the bird is called An-Nughair. He says, Abu Umair, what is Nughair doing these days? What's your toy doing these days? Tell me about your toy. He knows the name of the toy. How many of us know the name of our kids' toys? My daughter has a baby, plastic baby. The name changes every day. This is the exceptional situation. But how many of us know the names of their toys, the names of the cartoon characters, the names of their friends? We don't know, right? The Prophet knew the names of the toys. And he's asking them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is the toy doing today? What did he eat? Is he tired? He's taking interest in the toy. This is the man leading the ummah. You are not more busy than him. You are not. He was more busy than you. He had more wives than you. He had more enemies than you. But he was asking about the name of the toy. We have to take an interest. Take an interest. And play with them. This is one of the most strongest bonding activities. And the last thing, salah, but not least. Tafaddal Habib.
Also, subhanAllah, تعاون معهم بالرفق واللين and when you wake them up تعاون معهم بالرفق and also to show them the beautiful of the deen and also
deal with them gently, his brother is saying. This is a psychological study. There's 2 ways to change someone's behavior. There's something called negative reinforcement. Every time this brother stands up, by the 5th time, he knows I'm not going to get up. I'm reinforcing something, using something negative. Then there's positive reinforcement. If he stays seated, I'm going to give him a chocolate. Yeah, reward, not punishment, reward. Which one do you think is more effective? Reward. Not from a dini basis, just from psychology. Hundreds and thousands of people from different studies and statistics, they've studied the human being. When you reward them for something good, they do this in the long term, even when you're not there. When you punish them for something, the moment you go out of the room, they're going to do it. Because they're only not doing it out of fear of you. So positive reinforcement, reinforce. This is how, I'm not saying discipline shouldn't discipline. There should be some red lines, there should be some ways we discipline, etc. Salah. What is the greatest way for your children to become people who love Salah?
pray with them.
He gets the reward, the award. You have to pray with them. Make the adhan loudly. Make a big deal of the Salah. Buy them a special musalla with their name on it. Special colorful one for children. Make the adhan loudly. Teach them the adhan. Make them pray Salah with them. Go take them to the masjid, different masjids. Pray salah on a mountain without them falling off the mountain. Pray salah on the side. Let them see you, let them participate. When they pray salah, here's small reward. This week you prayed 5 salah, now you get £5, go and buy a toy. Reward them, look after them, motivate them. Make this your priority. Even, I give you another idea. When they are young, you can teach them to pray salah in English. When they are 4, 5, 6, 7, if that's their native tongue. Because they learn the meanings of salah first. They understand what are they doing. All praise to Allah the Most High. All praise to Allah the Great. All praise to Allah the Great. I know some people, they try this with their children. It worked very well because for them, they know what they are saying now in salah as children. Then as they become baligh, 9, 10, 11, 12, you teach them the Arabic. No problem. You can do this. As a teaching technique. You can teach them the du'as in English. You know, when they wake up from their bed, Alhamdulillah, ahyana. You can teach them in English to start with. Oh Allah, I thank you for waking me up after you put me to death. Because then they know what they're saying. And as they grow up, you can teach them the Arabic. And the du'as don't have to be in Arabic. Allah understands every language. Even Dutch, Allah understands Dutch. Yes? So, be careful, smart how we teach them. If we give them this inside the house, and the last thing also very important one is the marriage relationship between husband and wife. When husband and wife has a problem, do they deal with it in front of the children? Very important. Behind closed doors. Don't show the children the anger and the fighting. You know, if you do that, what will happen? You will see them acting out the same thing with the siblings. Psychologists say when a child sees something shocking, they have to act it out to deal with the stress. So let's say, for example, let's say you hit your child, or you scream at your child, or you scream at someone in front of your child. Later, if your child has a toy, you will see your child is screaming at the toy. You will see this. Experienced parents, they've seen this. You will see them hitting the toy, screaming at the toy, shoving the toy in the bed. You better go to sleep. You think, looks familiar. I'm a bit worried now. Children, they show us what our weaknesses. They show us our weaknesses, right? So, the marital relationship and the safety and the stability of your marriage is very important. How you deal with arguments and conflict especially. If we do things outside the house and we do this inside the house, most importantly this first one, and we make lots of dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect your children. And if we don't, you could be, and remember the last most important thing, can you control your child's guidance? No. Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh alayhi salam. How many years did he give da'wah? Could he help his son? Cannot. Right? You cannot control the guidance, the outcome of the guidance. You can only try. Leave the rest to Allah. You can do everything and your child can become misguided. This you make dua. Maybe in their dying breath they say the shahada and everything changes. You cannot. You have to leave it to Allah at one point.
But is this while they're in the household or after they've left at the age of 18? So
in terms of kind of
the guidance and I guess.
I mean the outcome of the guidance. You can't control where they end up. You can input.
Yeah.
But the outcome.
The age of 18.
You can really, parenting never ends. You know, till today my father parents me.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and I tell him, Baba, I mean, look, I've got kids, I've a 7-seater, you know, and now, Baba, no. Why did you go in the second rak'ah? Why? What happened to the first rak'ah? Till today, my father. So some things shouldn't end. But of course, like you're mentioning, as they get older, you have to let go a bit. Give them a bit of independence, more independence and stuff, yes. But their ultimate guidance, Jannah or Jahannam, is not in your hands. We have to really appreciate this. Allah is the guide. How do you deal with their questions? We'll end with this. I'm just going to give you one example of the Prophet ﷺ. A man come to the Prophet ﷺ, young man. He says, "Oh, Ya Rasulullah, idhinni fi zina." O Prophet of God, let me commit zina. He's distressed. The Sahaba said, move away from the Prophet. What is this? You can't speak to him like this. He said, no, bring him close. Bring him close. So the first thing is, when the question comes, be accepting. Don't push it away. Don't tell a child, how can you ask this question? Taqillah. No, come, it's okay. Come, Sit, ask. Yes, talk to me. What question do you have? First thing. Second thing, he says, I like this girl, I want to do zina with her, I can't control myself. Please give me permission. The fact that he came to the Prophet means he has a fear of Allah. He's not going to do it without the Prophet's permission. If someone wants to do zina, they can do it. He wants the Prophet's permission. So the Prophet ﷺ, first he's accepting, he's welcoming to him. It's okay. He's approachable. You and me, we have to be approachable. Yeah? So we have to be approachable. Then when he gives him the question, the Prophet ﷺ says, look, would you like this to happen for your sister?
Yeah.
You'd like some man to come and do this with your sister? He says, no. What about your mother? Some man comes and does adultery with your mother. He says, no. People don't like this to be done to their sisters either. Did he give him a religious reminder? No. He talked to him from his perspective. This young man in this moment, he may not understand ayat of the Quran that you give him. It may not affect him. But he understands his mother and his sister. And he has a good relationship with them. So the Prophet speak to them on their level. Give them what will help them understand. Give them a different perspective. Logic, reason. The Prophet ﷺ is making him think. At that moment, he's not thinking with his brain, he's thinking with something else. The Prophet ﷺ says, come, start using your mind a little bit. Think with your brain. Think about the effects, the consequences, the harms for this girl. Think about your own sister, your own mother. He's making him think, use reason. Yes? The role of the messenger is to make us use our minds, to think in the right way. This is how the Prophet ﷺ would deal with the questions. There might be questions you don't know the answer to. What do we do with these questions? Baba, Allah created everything, so who created Allah? This is where you have to learn. You have to go to the scholar, the sheikh, the imam. Sheikh, this question came from a child, I don't know the answer. Come sit down, let me explain to you both. Or you learn the answer and you pass it on. We have to do a lot more learning because our children in today's age, in this society, they will have a lot more questions. So the bar is set higher for us. They're going to ask us why, and we have to explain patiently, nicely. Keep hammering the core points home. Salah, love of Allah, fear of Allah, the Muhammad ﷺ, the stories, children. This is a very important point. I didn't mention the internal stories. Story time is very important. At bedtime, you have to be the chief storyteller in the house. And you have to get animated. Stories of the Sahaba, stories of the Prophet ﷺ, Battle of Uhud, Battle of Badr, Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the fire, Zakaria, Yunus in the whale. You have to become the movie. You have to become the moving, animated story for your children. Because the stories is what they will always remember. Tell them stories about the Prophets and the companions of the Prophet. That means you have to learn them as well. Buy them books, take them out, take them to Islamic museums, show them the history of Islam. If you're going on holiday, don't go to Antalya, go to Istanbul. Show them the Islamic museum. If you're going to Spain, don't go to Barcelona, go to Andalus. Show them the Islamic history, show them again and again. Take them to Umrah, take them to Hajj, let them see the Kaaba, hear the adhan, go to the masjid. Give them different experiences. Always have your mind on this, and then in the end, guidance is with Allah. Any questions? How much time till Jama'ah?
17.
Khalas. Let's say 10 minutes for questions, thoughts, any comments, anything you want to add to this? Yes? Concerns? Yes, Habibi, go ahead.
Allah, in the house, when we eat food together and in the hadith of Sallallahu يا غلام سم الله وكل بيمينك
وكل مما يليك.
سبحان الله يعني لازم نعظم لازم السنة تكون سبحان الله اتباع سنة الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم البركة فيها.
صحيح.
صبرهم على الطعام هذه نعمة من الله.
The brothers mentioned a good point, which is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he was eating at home and a young boy is eating. This boy is eating from all parts of the table. So the Prophet ﷺ says, look my son, Ya bunay, see, with love, say Bismillah. Eat with your right hand and eat what is close to you. So the adab, the etiquettes, the conduct, how to respect elders, how to eat, how to sit, this is a part of the day-to-day life of a parent. Guiding the children through this. And this is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, gentlemen. Soon to be fathers. Yes? Yes.
So if they come with a question that you don't know how to answer, how would you tell them that? So we said to them, like...
Give me an example.
Of a question?
Yeah. You don't know how to answer.
A question I don't know how to answer.
Yeah, like if you be the child, I'll be the dad. Let's go. I'm joking. Give me an example.
Of a question?
A question that a parent can't answer. And I'll show you how to...
I have a question.
Okay, like Qadr.
Yeah. Qadr, okay, yes.
In this cartoon, the child, the main character has two fathers. Why does he have two fathers?
Where were you when the cartoon was on TV? Why is he watching this cartoon? This is your fault. I can't help you. This is your fault, Sheikh.
That's an overseas question.
What were you doing? When kunt? Were you sleeping?
It's not father.
I said select the cartoon. What were you doing? This question should not come up. Okay. Prevention is better than the cure. If the question comes up, you have to sit and explain. Yeah. You have to give them the hard facts.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the person is like, the child is like 9-year-old,
Yeah.
so should we directly tell them that this is the thing that...
It's a discussion.
Okay.
Okay, what did you see? So what do you think about what you saw? Have you, is it common for you to see this, right? Well, let me tell you, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who made us, if you, right, you made this Lego block building, so who knows the best about this building? You, right? Who made us? Allah. He knows the best about us, right? What Allah told us about us is X, Y, Z.
Okay, got it.
Yeah?
I think that's when teaching about children comes, I guess comes into, because they'll always be asking how a baby's made, and that's part of that story.
You have to have that conversation at the right time as well, yeah. But let's say the questions about Qadr. You have no idea. First option, go back to what you are sure of. So look, my son, we know one thing. Allah knows everything. That's for sure. And look, you can do whatever you want. If you want to run to that side of the room, you can go. If you want to run here, you can go. If you want to jump up and down, you can do it. Nobody's stopping you, right? That's it. Allah knows everything and you have choices. You can simplify. But as for the thing that you asked me right there, but why did this happen to me? I'm not really sure. Maybe what we'll do on Wednesday, we'll go to Sheikh Muhammad Ali Mawlid's Sirah class and we'll catch him after the class and we'll ask him, what do you think? Let's go. Take him to the masjid, you sit down, Sheikh Muhammad Ali can explain. Yeah? Or you relate it to a story. Like Qadr, or why bad things happen. Yusuf alayhi salam, how many things happened to him? So if you know the stories of the prophets, it's easier for you to relate it always back to a story. Yes? Allah.
So you mentioned, to ask you a hard question. Let's say, for example, subhanAllah, one of the parents passed away when the kid was very little. So later on they ask you where is mom or where is dad, if it's, for example, in the mother's case. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. This is, you have to be sensitive with these situations because what the child is experiencing, the psychologists call trauma, shock. The child knows something is wrong. That's why they're asking the question. Depending on the age, right? If they're like 2 or 3 and they don't understand death yet, right? Maybe they don't understand. They say, look, Mama's gone right now. She's not here right now. She's not here. Mama's left. Or if they're slightly 4 or 5, Mama's gone to Allah. Yeah, what does that mean, going to Allah? See, look, you're born, you become small, you become older. Then everybody has to eventually go back to Allah. You can really simplify it for them, the story. But there's going to be an emotional effect on them. That's more important. The story is easy to tell. But then over the next weeks and months, you have to watch them carefully. How are they feeling about it? They're going to feel, where's Mama? Multiple times in the day. You have to look after that feeling. How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to be sensitive to them? Sometimes you just have to give them a cuddle. Sometimes you just have to sit and talk to them about it. Sometimes maybe they just want to cry. You just give them a cuddle and let them cry. Let them deal. Children naturally will have an emotional response. You let them go through that. Yeah. But be aware, talk to them, understand, appreciate, accept their feelings. You're feeling this way? Okay, I understand. Yeah. Sometimes child is too young to know, to understand. But simplify the story to their level. Wallahu a'lam. Yes?
Yeah, the question was there, like how babies are made, and your response was they'll know at a certain age, right?
Yeah, we have to have the conversation at a certain age.
And
Yeah.
what is a certain age, and how should we know that this is the right time?
Right. It differs, right? But generally speaking, as a child comes closer to puberty or as they hit puberty and the signs of puberty arrive, that question about being an adult has to be had. You're an adult now, or even before, when they're 9, 10, you're a child, but there are adults. You know what the difference between child and adults? Adults have big beards, not me unfortunately, but some adults have big beards. Adults have this. If it's a girl, women have this. You start to explain to them before puberty. This is general explanation. See, this is how Allah makes you stronger. This is how Allah makes you bigger. Allah makes you, smarter to do more things, etc. So show the positive light. It's a change. It's not a bad change. But before they go through the changes, make them aware. Just through conversation, sit down, you go for walks, explain to them. You don't have to explain about how children are made straight away.
Yeah.
The conversation completely changes if they go to a public school, a state school. They're going to know before the age of 7.
They would.
The average child, I'm sorry to share the statistic with you all, I don't like it, but it's the truth. The average child is exposed to pornography in the UK at the age of 7. I'm not talking about how babies are made, I'm talking about exposed to pornography. Yeah. So if you have that close relationship with your children and they can open up to you, if they're able to open up to you, I have to have the conversation now. They've seen something, they've heard something from their friend told them that this happened at home, I did this with another person, I need to talk to them. State school, you may have to have that conversation earlier. The best thing, have the conversation before they find out from someone else. Introduce it to them in a safe way. This is a hard thing. And especially us Muslims, Asians, Arabs and Africans, we don't like to talk about these things with our kids. But we are we are here now. We are not in India, Pakistan, Somalia, Egypt, Syria. We are here. We have to have the open conversation. Yes, Habib.
Is it possible to protect the child's innocence? I feel like growing up now, kids.
It's called homeschooling. You can have another workshop about that. There is a way to protect a child's innocence, right? And honestly, other than homeschooling, I don't know any other solution where you have control. Any other solution, you don't have a control. Which school?
That's kind of proven.
Yeah. Islamic schooling, another option. But last question, I think Iqamah is going to start now. Yes.
It ties in with his question. It was
11 minutes.
Huh?
1 minute.
10 minutes till Iqamah?
Namaz.
You need to go?
8 minutes.
Okay, you can turn off and go whenever you want. You want to wrap up and stuff? 5 minutes? Khalas, negotiation done. Yes?
It ties in with his question. That
Yes.
is, in public schools, now in primary schools, they type RSE.
Correct.
So, about then, how do you deal with it when the kids come back and they're talking about transgender, gay, LGBT, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, this is something, a bigger topic than what we have time for. There was someone who came in the last summer conference, Yusuf Patel. Write his name, Yusuf Patel. He has a podcast on this topic. He has essays, articles on how to deal with this. Yusuf Patel, I think his name is Yusuf Patel. Does anybody remember?
I think he discussed on the curriculums and how to approach them and all these things.
Yeah.
I think if all of that is done right, that won't be a topic for discussion.
Sorry, say again? Yes.
If all of that is done right, it won't be a matter of...
Yeah, Yusuf Patel, correct. He has a few podcasts about this whole topic. I advise you to, I haven't listened to them. I don't endorse every single thing anybody says, but just as a person of a reference, he's a good man to listen to. He's an expert in this. But what our brother is saying is a good point, that if you have the conversation at home, you can deal with this. But I think this is a new situation. Because it's unprecedented. We've never had the situation where a 5, 6, 7-year-old has been exposed. 4 to 6-year-old. It's never been that young that we have to have that conversation. So that's a new thing for us.
Yeah. It's in the year 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
Put it into the syllabus on year 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to ask, I feel like if it's your son, it's easier as a man to talk to him about what we go through and how we deal with our struggles. But if it's a female, your daughter, it's kind of difficult to have that conversation with them because you can't really relate to the feelings that they're going through.
Yeah. If it's easier, let mum talk to them, sister talk to them, big sister, cousin, sister, aunt. It's definitely it's easier for a man to relate to a man. Yeah, and it's easier for a mum to relate to the daughter, particularly when it comes to the practical aspects and look after them, help them through the transition, check in with them. Some masajid, do a good workshop called Boyhood to Manhood, Girlhood to Womanhood. Islam Bradford does it every year. I don't know about Furqan, I don't know about, I'm new to Manchester, right? But some masajid do this. Anybody knows a masjid in Manchester that does a workshop like this, you can suggest to someone, feel free to share it. Of course, I don't endorse everything, everywhere, just in case anybody said, is Mubtada. Yes, tell me.
I want to ask you about the outcomes, subhanAllah, nowadays of the TV and the phones becomes like dangerous. So
Devices is a tricky one.
yeah.
I practice an extreme solution. I'm not going to ask anybody to practice this. This is inspired by this videographer, Mr. Ibrahim. Right? We are on the madhab of Nokia. Today, unfortunately, both him and me have our smartphones. Just today. But usually, we try to stick to Nokia. I don't have a TV at home. My kids do get to watch cartoons. I have like a computer monitor. Every 2-3 days, I select the cartoon, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, controlled cartoon time, space, etc. They get to watch, they get to play, etc. But I don't have a TV. Why? I'll tell you why. I'm weak. I know in the early years of parenthood, when the kids are tiring you and exhausting you and they're whining and nagging, the easiest thing to do is what? Just turn it on. Khalas, let them be zapped at the TV. You get used to that eventually. So it's harder for you. You have to keep entertaining them. Right? Or they have to entertain themselves. Right? That's one extreme solution. The other, there's a moderate solution, which is you have the TV or you have the device, but you control its usage. That means a parent has to be there. That means a parent has to have a plan for it, a system for it. No, I said only 30 minutes a day. It's been 1 hour now. You can't watch anymore. I said only those channels, those cartoons. Right? Yes, you had it.
So what do you think, like in your situation, what do you think the right age to give the child freedom to have a phone? Like how would you, I mean, eventually they're going to grow older and they're going to have a phone, right? So
where's uncle? Where's the uncle who's sitting? He's gone. When did you get your phone?
Second year of college.
How old were you?
17.
Uncle, what about you? How old were your kids when you gave them a phone?
They mine was very younger.
Younger?
Yeah.
And what do you think? How did it go? What's your reflection?
I think it was okay. Yeah.
Yes.
A phone is not always a bad thing. It's more of a
it's a tool.
on the situation.
It's a device.
It's a device. It's something that people use as a tool to kind of secure safety. If a child goes to a school far away, it's important to have a phone to get in touch with them.
So if it's just for safety purposes, give them a Nokia.
Okay.
The danger is not the calling and SMSing. The danger is the internet and the World Wide Web. And I would say, roughly the right time for someone to have that access to the World Wide Web anytime, anywhere, at night, in the morning, I would say 15 to 17, 14 to 17, 13 to 17, This is the age range you need to be looking at. Like personally, I wouldn't be comfortable giving my kids a phone before age of 15 or 16. A smartphone I'm talking about, with data. I would not be comfortable before 15, 16. And that's as a minimum. You want to call an SMS? Here's a Nokia. Right? 2G. 2G SIM card. Pay as you go. Right? And I mean, how many of us in this room grew up without phones? We survived, right? Yeah, we survived. Nothing happened to us, right? Alhamdulillah, they can manage. Yes, in the case of necessity, fine. But the World Wide Web is not a safe place for our kids. It's not. It's a khazan. It's a vortex. It just has endless of everything. You don't know what might be there for your kids, right? Yes.
You mentioned homeschooling, right?
Yes.
So when someone's kids are young. They might, some personality types, or maybe some parents, they might be reluctant, to send them out and, send them on maybe activities where you don't know what's happening. So, you're not going to just keep them behind closed doors all the time, right? You need them to...
Homeschooling doesn't mean schooling inside the home. It just means freestyle. So Tuesday your child can go and learn horse riding. Wednesday they can go to the football club. Monday they are at Alfurqan doing an Arabic class. And in Manchester you have a big homeschooling community, almost 100 Muslim families. So they block book things in groups. That makes it easy, you just have to turn up. And there's loads of other kids to play with. So that, maybe we can discuss afterwards. One last disclaimer before you all go is there are people in this room who are more experienced than me as a parent. But from what I know, from the Quran and Sunnah, and from what I know in society, I've tried to share something. Any good is from Allah, any mistake is from myself. And use your experience and those who are older and those who are elder to get more insight, because we are standing on the shoulders of giants. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.